but we're talking about the most brilliant mind this world has ever seen.
Episode 5 of the Brian and Brenden Talking About Beaver Football podcast. We're recording this on a Thursday evening and on what was a lovely day in Corvallis.
It was a lovely day in Corvallis. Maybe one of our last lovely days in Corvallis.
As sad as that might be, it might be true, but I'd be down for a little change in weather and nice fall weather. It just says football season.
I love them 75-degree moments, Brian.
Yeah, no, those are nice.
It's just perfect. Like today was almost a perfect day. It really was. You know, that 75 degrees, football, weekend ahead, class is done for me. Just beautiful moments.
It is. I mean, we are kicking off the weekend, and it's a good feeling. So we'll just dive right in. We got a full rundown going on today. We'll talk a little Boise State game. We'll hand out some quarter of the year superlatives.
Quarter of the year already?
Yeah, we're 3 games in.
Jeez, that's
if my math is correct.
3, 6, 9. Yeah, you're right. Wow, that's a scary thought. That is a scary thought.
Yep, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Colorado game coming up. So
yes, sir.
All right, so let's jump right in. Oregon State hosted Boise State this last weekend, and it was the cliche tale of two halves. Oregon State went in the halftime trailing 31-7, then mounted a comeback. I think they got it to within a one-score game.
No, it was never. It was
always 2?
2. Yep.
Okay.
It was the Beavers were on Boise State's 39-yard line on a 4th and 1, down 14.
That's right.
Couldn't get it.
Yeah, so that was... And ultimately, Boise State won 38.
And that's
24.
big. That's big. I mean, you never know. You get that. I mean, if you could have powered through and gotten that 4th and 1, that could have changed the whole landscape. I mean, but then again, I think there would have been more quarterback controversy if Connor Blount had led Oregon State back to a victory.
No, yeah, that's one of the questions I have down. Is, do you buy that? Because Gary Anderson after the game said that Daryl Garrettson is dealing with an injury. Do you buy that, or do you think that he just hasn't been playing well? Because he really hasn't played well since the Minnesota game.
Here's my 2 cents. I buy that Garrettson's their guy, but I think I don't buy that he was injured.
You don't buy that he was injured?
Nope. Think about it. Think about it. A guy's injured enough to where he gets pulled from the game, right? Which is usually pretty significant. Knowing a guy like Garrettson who's just tough as nails, okay? Whether or not he wanted to come out or whatever, and then you're telling me in a mere 36 hours later, he was taking all the reps. He took all the reps on Monday. We weren't there to see it, but everyone said he's been taking all the reps. Never even listed on the injury report. So my only thought was that maybe came to my head was maybe he got the wind knocked out of him, a little bit, maybe a slight concussion, something that doesn't show. But then I heard it was a leg. I don't buy that. I don't, because I think if it was a significant injury, it would have hampered him. Wouldn't have just been gone in a day. And that's just it. A lot of things don't add up to me there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of lack of transparency from Anderson with injuries, and that's kind of always how it's been.
Yep, and how it will be,
Yeah, and so I'm guessing he was injured. He took some pretty nasty hits in that first half. I think he was sacked 3 times, and when you're down 31-7, sometimes it's like, all right, let's give some other people a chance. Let's not kill you right here. But yeah, Connor Blount came in and played. He was serviceable. He led a couple scoring drives, but I mean, he finished the game. I mean, not great.
Right.
So I guess another question I have. I mean, we can stick on this Connor Blount, Daryl Garrettson thing for just a quick seconds. How good do you think Connor Blount is? Because I almost get a Nick Mitchell feeling where, and by I know I was a big Nick Mitchell advocate last year, but where he played, I mean, in Colorado, he played pretty well going back to last year, but then was pretty average to poor the rest of the way out. Do you see that from Connor Blount, or am I off on that?
First of all, I just have to give my usual plug, Brian, and say, It's funny that it happened to be this way where, the way this shook out, because originally the Beavers had Daniel Prida, who was going to be the quarterback, who was going to be had Connor Blunt's spot, the JC quarterback. He ended up going somewhere else. They added Connor Blunt so late. The guy still doesn't even have a name on the back of his practice jersey. But yet, I don't know. It's interesting how he's been thrust into such a role when there's guys. This is my plug because I think it's crazy. There's a guy that's leading the FCS in passing yardage that came in McMinnville High School, and no one even offered him around the area, and now is throwing for 400 yards a game for Eastern Washington. But I'm just saying, it's Oregon State not having apparent depth. You're telling me a guy, Marcus McMarion, who's been in the system for 3 years, is beat out by a walk-on? That doesn't say a whole lot for your program's recruiting in terms of quarterback depth. I'll put it this way. I think Connor's a great kid. He's a nice guy. From what I've seen, very cool, calm, collected. But if your best option, because Anderson said he went with his gut, if your best option is a walk-on guy in a Division I football game against Boise State, a game that could potentially turn your program around, that doesn't send a whole lot of good vibes to me, regardless of if he's, serviceable or whatever. I didn't like a whole lot of how that was handled. And honestly, to be honest, I think if Darrell Garrison hadn't transferred to Oregon State, I think the Beavers would be in a world of hurt in the quarterback spot. And I think that's just something they got to get better at. They don't even they have one committed quarterback right now. I just feel like they're not even recruiting a specific type of quarterback. They're recruiting a guy now that doesn't scramble at all. You have guys that do, I just feel like they don't have a very clear vision on what they want their quarterback to be. And that's just interesting because look at the difference between Seth Collins and Garrettson, two completely different players. So I'm at a loss for what Oregon State wants out of the QB position.
No, I think that's a really good point. That, even with Garrettson, who he played well against Minnesota, was so against Idaho State, and then put up decent numbers, but just the offense had no flow. It's almost kind of the same thing as last year. It's like what you said is, what do you want from the quarterback position? Do you want someone who's going to run, or do you want someone who's going to throw? They keep saying, we want someone who can beat you, running, passing, and, with their mind and all that.
Yep.
But we just haven't seen any of those things come.
And the funny thing is, I look back and, now you're seeing, situations where, arguably, you couldn't say it now because, Brian, I remember you were at that spring practice and you said he looked the worst of all of them. But, it would have been interesting if Luke Del Rio had stayed around. You said he didn't look very good that spring, but the guy's been starting for Florida now and done pretty well. So, it's those things, and I think that Oregon State's just been very, very inconsistent with what they've wanted from their quarterback. I don't think the offensive coordinator change helped that much, but you could tell Baldwin wanted a completely different quarterback than McGibbon wanted. And I don't know. It's funny because we go back to when Gary Anderson got here and he made comments like, "Oh, I don't even get involved in the offense. That's just not even my thing. I'm just like, that's a stranger to me." Like the head coach doesn't even really know what he wants out of his quarterback. I'm just a little skeptical about the Beavers quarterback situation. I think they have a good running back. I think they have great wide receivers. But I'm not super sold on what Oregon State is wanting out of their quarterback right now, because when was the last time you had a quarterback at Oregon State just go off? Mannion?
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Granted, that's almost 2 years ago now, but even if you're a bad team, you should be able to have a quarterback go off once a season at least. It should, Oregon State doesn't even have the ability, it seems, to have a quarterback go off because you have weapons on the outside. You have speedsters. You have guys that can take it to the house like Victor Bolden. You have weapons like Seth Collins, but they've underwhelmed even in the Minnesota game. And granted, that could be attributed to poor offensive line play or poor running game and being forced to throw the ball, which I think is going to be remedied with Sean Harlow back in the lineup, which I'm sure is something we'll get to a little bit later for sure. But just the biggest takeaway for me, it's puzzling, the quarterback thing here at Oregon State.
Yeah, the move to not put in McMarion was surprising to me because, McMarion, he played well in the Civil War last year.
And you thought he looked really good in practice.
Yeah, and he's someone who just looked like he was doing the right thing. And
Steady Eddie, just doing his thing, counting it or dotting his I's, crossing his T's, as Gary Anderson says. And I thought he was decent. He earned it.
Yeah, and Yeah, just it's just a little surprising move. I mean, Blunt went in and he didn't look overwhelmed at all, so maybe there's something there. But yeah, we'll kind of put a cap on that for right now because Garrettson will be starting, and I don't. Think
I'm sure we can have a whole podcast on talking about Oregon State's just kind of their how they handle quarterbacks. But we obviously have a lot more stuff to get to today.
Yeah. So my final question before we put an end to the Boise State discussion. So the first half was so lopsided. It was like Oregon State was outgained by like 370 plus yards. Were outscored 31 and somehow only managed to be down 3 scores.
Yep.
So who had the worst first half? The Oregon State offense or the Oregon State defense?
Oregon State offense, and here's why. Your defense, you got to think. Outside of Stanford and now maybe Washington, is there a defense in the Pac-12 that shuts out a Pac-12 opponent from beginning to end?
Nope.
Because a Pac-12 defense in today's mind, in my opinion, you need to be serviceable. Unless you're Stanford or Washington, you have a truly elite defense. And I think it's very hard. In the Pac-12 to have a truly elite defense, it's maybe 1 or 2 teams a year. It's not much. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes it's just Stanford. And Stanford's in a class of their own because they're as good as they come. They're the cream of the crop. But you can't ever ask your defense to shut out a team like Boise or a team in the Pac-12. You're asking your defense to give them less chances to score than you do. That's what's about the Pac-12 is about. Offense, speed, points. So how much pressure do you think it gets on the defense when the offense goes 3 and out? Or whatever. That's why I said I think it's Oregon State on that first drive looks so good. So much methodicalness, I thought that first, even granted it was only like 35 yards, and I get that. They got a pass interference, which helped. But they looked methodical. They looked poised. They looked like they were on a mission. After that, the play calling got worse. They were, on like a 3rd and 10, you're running a swing pass to Ryan Nall that takes so long to develop. By the time he gets it, he's getting smacked. I mean, I was not pleased with how Oregon State's offense, and they didn't build off it. They did the same thing on a 1st and 10, run for a yard. I mean, there's just execution, little things like that have to get better.
No, yeah, I'm going to agree with you, and I'd say the offense, but I'm going to go a little different route. The defense got 2 turnovers. They forced 2 turnovers.
Accurate.
In Boise State territory. So Oregon State was already across the 50 and got 0 points out of it.
Yeah,
especially that first one.
Yep. When they had the ability to go up 10-7 or 14-7, that would have changed the entire landscape of the game, hands down.
Yeah, and you touched on the play calling. Yeah, the running a trick play out of a turnover is so common, and it's it's expected.
Yeah, and the thing you mentioned is that was actually good because you think about it, the Oregon State defense. Sure, they got gashed the first drive. A lot of defenses come out and their weakest possession is their first possession, where opponents will go down and score and then they'll shut them out for a good portion of the game. The Beavers responded well. As soon as they saw what wasn't working and Oregon State went and scored, then you go send an extra guy. You force pressure on the quarterback. Then your defense like, whoa, we just forced a turnover. Let's let our offense score, and we got some high confidence. Then your offense just goes backwards, and you can't come away. I said it on KBVR when we were broadcasting the game. I said you can't come away with 0 here, and they did. And I said it would cost them the game, and basically that made it Boise be like, Boise turned the ball over. I forget how many times in the whole game.
I think it was 3
for 0 points. You turn the ball over in the Pac-12, or I'm saying Pac-12 because Boise State is the tier of a Pac-12 team, I believe. You turn the ball over, you need to make your opponent pay. And if you can't make your opponent pay, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I agree. Those, especially when you're in the other, if you get the turnover and you're like on your own, like 15, you get a stop in the red zone, you still want to get points out of it. But if you just flip the field position, that in itself is a victory. But if you get it on the other side of the 50 and you're in your opponent's territory, you got to come away with points.
Agreed.
Even if it's just 3, you want 7, but you need points.
Oregon State taking a lead in general right there, I think, would have exuded a lot and would have maybe put a little bit of doubt in Boise State. Yeah, no,
I agree that that was a huge missed opportunity, and it's just been kind of one of those, reoccurring themes, for Oregon State, the last 15 games was just
under Coach Anderson, really. Yeah. And it's funny because I asked Tristan Decoud, on Wednesday, why haven't you put anything together? I myself and Gino Mizell, the Oregonian, just kind of asked Tristan, we're like, why do you think you haven't been able to put 4 quarters of football together defensively? He's like, I don't know. He's honestly like, I couldn't tell you. You don't want to be saying that in year 2 of a rebuild. I mean, I'm not trying to say, I think Tristan was honest, but the fact they don't even have answers, I don't know. You shouldn't have situations where your team isn't coming out ready to play. Not in year 2. And we said that in our OMN postgame video. Mm-hmm. And this Colorado game will tell a lot because arguably, Brian, I'm going to say with full-heartedly, the Beavers have played their best football on the road this year.
That is very true.
And I'm not going to, Oregon State is completely underwhelmed at home, and their game against Minnesota was maybe better than the Boise State and Idaho State game put together. Their game against Minnesota was impressive for a first game, and that's why I was like, whoa, maybe they can do something. But they've only regressed since then. And it's not like they got hurt. It's not like, I'm trying to figure out what changed. I wonder if it was just Garrettson maybe did get more hurt in that game than he let on. Which,
because looking back, he's been, those last 2 weeks,
just so.
It seemed like he wasn't. It seemed like he wasn't getting the quantity of reps that you would expect. That we only do get to see like the last 20 minutes, if that.
But like even like today, Connor Blunt and Garrettson probably got maybe 75 to Garrettson, 25 for Blunt, in terms of percentage.
Yeah, and going back to last week and the week before. Or mostly last week, McMarion was also getting snaps as well. Yeah. So you're splitting them 3 ways.
And I remember when I talked to you last week, I'm like, what is this? I came over and I said, who's number 12? I said, and I'm like, and you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, it's Connor Blunt. And we're like, why is he getting reps? And we're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously we all know what happened, but it's mind-boggling to me. And I'm thinking Garrettson has not been healthy since. Good old Tayon Devers got a few shots on him in Minnesota. But going into it, if Garrettson is better and good to go now, I think Sean Harlow on that offensive line is an absolute game changer for the Beavers. And I say that for one reason, because I like that they've shifted some things around. There's going to be some new players in different positions, I think. TJ Woods alluded to it earlier this week. He said they're kind of playing musical chairs with the offensive line right now. Because they know it's not working. They know their protection's not working, and they know their run blocking's not working. They know their pass blocking isn't working. So look for the Beavers to come out, and I think they're going to do a better job this week. And Harlow, like Gary Anderson, getting a captain back out there, there's no negative to that.
All right. I don't think I need to ask you what Sean Harlow return means.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
my bad.
Got that.
My bad. On to you then, Brian.
No, yeah. I obviously it's a big addition. He has I think he has over 30 starts in his career.
I think it's 28 if I'm right.
Or he is darn close to 30.
Yep.
And he's a good talent. He's a potential NFL offensive lineman.
He's a gamer. I knew it because I remember when Harlow was going to redshirt in 2013, and when an offensive lineman, I forget who it was, got hurt in 2013 against San Diego State, they had to put him in the game, burn his redshirt right then and there. And he held his own as a true freshman from that moment when I said, wow, I put this kid in, I knew he was going to be a great talent. And you could tell Harlow's always just been steady Eddie, never been a guy that's been subject to any kind of criticism. Everywhere he's played has been kind of a Swiss Army knife, gone all over the line, kind of like an Isaac Seumalo, not quite the talent that Seumalo was, but very steady guy, very built guy, smart, team captain, respected. And honestly, that might be the best thing for Garrettson to have his best friend on the offensive line.
No, yeah, that's really true. Him and Garrettson go way back,
way back, like elementary school days back.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a really big addition. He's definitely their best offensive line talent. So whenever you can get your best player back,
talent over Gavin Enders.
Yep.
Think so? Mm-hmm. I'd say I don't know. I think there might be a little bit of debate there, just because I think Gavin Enders is also a really big NFL talent.
I mean, Gavin just hasn't played enough.
That's true. I agree, but either way, basically, it's almost that getting Harlow back is almost, Brian, that brotherhood, that kind of like, you know what, I'm left tackle, I'm guarding my bro's blind side. no one's gonna get a hand on my bro. It's just like, and I'm not saying that like Blake Brendel or Yanni Demo Gerontis or however they end up doing the shuffle didn't say that. But if it's Brian, you know as well as I, you're gonna feel a certain way and act a certain way and protect your best friend maybe, and you're gonna get that extra effort for your best friend maybe more than someone who's just a good friend.
I hope that's not the case.
I just think there's an extended reach of brotherhood there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that's a bond that goes, that's kind of the we're all brothers, thick as, and I think it will ultimately help Oregon State keep Garrettson upright. That's kind of where I'm ending there.
All right. So before we get into the Colorado game and the rest of the Pac-12 slate, we're 3 games into the season, which is a quarter of the season. So let's do some quarter superlatives. Actually jumped onto Josh's radio show yesterday. I called in.
Oh, geez. Awesome.
And yeah, we went through them. So I thought this would be a good idea for the podcast. So
cool beans.
This idea stems from the Josh Warden. So, all right, Brenden. So I'll ask you who you do, and then who you think is the offensive MVP of the team 3 games in.
Seth Collins, but Victor Bolden's also like a 1A, 1B. Seth Collins and Victor Bolden, in my opinion. No one in the running back core has even impressed me very much. No one on the offensive line deserves the credit, in my opinion. Quarterback play has been too shaky, so just like that, I'm kind of forced to pick a wide receiver. So I like Seth and I like Victor. Obviously, Victor has proven that he is a game changer at a Pac-12 level on kickoff returns, on fly sweeps. He's taken some notice to him. But I'm going to have to give it to Seth Collins just because you take a guy who is a converted, quarterback, can throw the rock, still not great, but decently enough. And I like it because Seth had his first 100-yard receiving game. Seth is only a sophomore. He's got a lot of potential, a lot of ceiling. I still don't think we've seen what Seth Collins can do necessarily. So I'm going to give him the MVP because he's led the team with a swagger that not a whole lot of other guys have. Just kind of like just this kind of attitude, just kind of like, at Minnesota, just kind of get in the face of guys and kind of just trying to amp up this program a little bit. And I think the Beavers need a guy like Seth Collins because even when the Beavers are losing or getting blown up by Boise State, he still brought the same level of intensity and the same level of competitiveness. And arguably, not everyone did on offense and at that all the time. And he brings it all the time. Sometimes a little bit too much, but I think he deserves it just based on his talent. And he's shown he can be one of Oregon State's best deep threats too.
Yeah, no, I mean, the offense hasn't been great thus far.
Yep.
And so it's tough to pick, one. But the Seth Collins pick is okay, but I don't think I would say he's the MVP. He has 100-yard receiving game. What else? He hasn't found the end zone. He hasn't done anything. So that's why I am going to go with Victor Bolden just because he brings that element of the big play threat. He is a threat in the in the return game. So, and he's found the end zone 3 times already this year, and it's a points game. So right now, Victor Bolden have scored 18 points for the team. I think Ryan Knowles has 18 as well. And yeah, hasn't been any for Collins. So that's why I'm taking Bolden over Collins. I do agree with you that Collins' upside is a lot bigger, but if I'm just going through the first 3 games,
fair,
it's got to be Bolden.
Okay.
Defensive MVP.
Titus Viala-Uga.
Titus.
I'm going to have to go with Titus just because he's handled the switch very well. That's something that's kind of a little bit under the radar. That the guy was a defensive end last year. And then he went and added more muscle, dropped a little bit of weight, came off an injury where he didn't play in the spring. Comes in and is immediately impactful at that kind of stud. I think it's a stud linebacker position. Already playing a lot better than Joshua James did as a defensive converted linebacker last year. I think he's forced one and recovered one, if I remember correctly. Something along those lines. I know he's forced at least one fumble, but I'm pretty sure he recovered one as well. Got a couple sacks. I think I like him because of what he brings, but the argument can also be made for Devin Chappelle as well. Or even Tristan Decoud. I mean, the defense, there's a few more viable options than offense for sure. So I'm going to have to give the nod to Titus because I like the energy he brings on defense. But good candidates are also definitely Decoud and Devin Chappelle.
No, yeah. Titus is a fine pick. He's a friend of KBVR, so that's always nice.
Definitely a friend of KBVR. Might have to drag him back up here again.
Yeah, might have to do that sometime.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with, I think it's an easy pick. I think it's Tristan Decoud.
Yeah, and
like I saw an interesting stat on Twitter from Pro Football Focus, which is, and on balls thrown in his direction, quarterbacks have a QB rating of like 7.6, which is the lowest in the Pac-12.
Yeah, he's gonna be a highly drafted corner.
Yeah, so he's just locking down. He's been a great tackler in the open space.
Only play he's not done well on all year is not getting in the corner against McNichols on that play against Boise State. Because I went back and I looked. That's the one bad play Decoud's had all year.
Yeah, no, he's been very good.
Yep.
He's been really good, and I think he is the tone setter for the defense.
I would say him and Devin Chappelle.
Yeah,
I really like Devin Chappelle. Chappelle's captain. And I think that defense has playmakers, which leads me to believe that I think the Beavers will get there on defense. Offense is still a little shaky for me. I'm not seeing those guys that, like you said, are being those leaders. You know, Garrettson's a captain. Victor Bolden's a captain. I haven't seen those guys. I mean, Victor Bolden, kind of, but those guys got to lead in the huddle too. And say, like, you know, Brian, if you're right there and you're getting the huddle after that Boise State turnover, you're Garrettson or Bolden, you're going, guys, we're scoring on this drive. We're taking control of this game. Period. It's happening.
And they could very well be saying that in the huddle.
Could be, but...
And I would be surprised if they weren't.
I'm not so sure, but...
All right. So you have Collins for your offensive MVP, Titus Falaluga as your defensive MVP. I have Victor Bolden and Tristan Decoud.
Cool.
Newcomer of the year. Now, this could be a true freshman or it could be a redshirt freshman who's playing for the first time this year.
Hadley Rushman. No, yes. I mean, this is a very, very, very biased opinion. So, just gonna say I'm in. You know, this is my one biased opinion. I'm thinking about it, just because of the impact he had against Boise State. But I'm thinking on offense, there haven't been a whole lot of big newcomers for me other than Art Pierce, and then on defense, there haven't been a whole lot of really game changers for me that I can really kind of. I'm kind of scanning through the defense. Not a whole lot that are really jumping off at me. But Adley so far changed the landscape of Oregon State's kickoffs. Garrett Owens is not a touchback kicker usually. Very rarely does he have the leg to get it that far. Adley comes in. I think he's maybe doubled up on his touchbacks compared to when he hasn't been. Definitely got quite a few touchbacks so far. I think like 5 compared to maybe 1 or 2 where it hasn't been. Got an onside kick, showed his versatility and being pretty definitely a little dynamic and being able to fall on a ball like that. Just because I've seen him. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of other newcomers that have really kind of took me out. My only other consideration would be Art Pierce, but he hasn't really. I mean, he did all right, but nothing to like go, wow.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Adley's been really good. I do think the touchback stats is an overrated stat. I would rather it go on like 1 yard deep into the end zone than like kicking it out of the end zone.
But he's got the leg to do whatever you need him to do.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'd rather have the team return.
See, I wouldn't. I never would because they can take it to the house every time. I'd rather give them position 25. I mean, I don't know. I guess. But you saw against Idaho State, Anderson had Adley put it at like the 3 yard line in the very far left or far right corner.
Yeah, that's where I think you want it.
But I either there or in the end zone, I'm fine with. What I'm not fine with is having a low line kick where the opponent, sometimes the Garrett Owens is receiving at the 10, they're getting to the 30 every time. And I think Gary Anderson made that decision after Minnesota when Owens couldn't get the ball. I mean, there was a play where he couldn't even get the kickoff to like the 10.
Yep.
So, but anyway, that's my newcomer.
I am going to go with Art Pierce and with Xavier Crawford mixed in there.
Ooh, I totally forgot about Xavier Crawford.
Yeah,
I like that dude too.
Yeah, Crawford's been really solid at corner.
His coverage is incredible for a redshirt freshman. I was telling Josh Warden this. The way he plays the ball, turns around, very, very disciplined for a redshirt freshman. Anyway, I'll let you go for it.
No, yeah, I think he filled in at that Minnesota game and played really well. He had that one PI call, which was, I thought, a bogus call.
I agree.
But, yeah, he's played really well, especially going deep. And he leads the team in tackles, so...
Crawford?
Yeah.
Dang.
Or it leads them in solo tackles.
Okay.
If I remember.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I thought that I know going into the Boise State game, Manasseh Hangalu led the team in tackles, and I think he was even up on a couple people by 3, which led me to believe that maybe he still did, but I'm not sure. So, anywho, good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Most improved.
That's a tough one. And I'm going to go with somebody who isn't going to play this year. Even from what I saw in a small sample size, I thought Noah Togiai was incredibly improved. It was a very small sample size, but I thought either him, and this is kind of like my 1A, 1B again, because I'm going to say Treston Decoud, because Treston Decoud was solid last year, but not a game-changing corner like he is now. But I'm also going to say Noah Togiai, because Noah Togiai, you could tell how much of a game changer he was in the spring game when Garrettson had clearly established a rapport with him right away. He was involved early and often against Minnesota, and it's really disappointing he's out for the year because I think, no disrespect to Tuli William-Adigi or Ricky Ortiz, but Noah Togiai is going to be a great player for Oregon State. And it would have been real interesting to see what would have happened if it could have been Noah Togiai at the H-back position and then Caleb Smith at that tight end position if Caleb Smith hadn't ended up walking away from the program. That would have been an interesting thing to see those two, because those two, Caleb Smith is obviously a great tight end presence, and a veteran guy, and I like Noah Togiai. I really did, and I thought losing him, I think it hurt Oregon State's offense more than you'd think. I really do, because McGivern said it best. He just did a whole lot for their offense, a lot of blocking packages, a lot of systematic packages. And I think that I think it's hurting a little bit. I do.
That's definitely a fair point, but I have a hard time putting someone in most improved who only had 4 catches so far. So I'm going to go with Bright Agwebu. I'm going to go on the defensive side.
I like that pick too.
I think he's already making way more.
Redshirt sophomore, right?
Yeah, he's making way more impact on the defensive side than he was last year. I mean, he's recovered a fumble, had a sack. I think he has a couple sacks on the year.
Yep.
He had that missed tackle against Minnesota that would have been huge on that fourth down call where he where he had the running back in the backfield but let him slip out
and go to the end zone, or wasn't that I thought it was a second or third, but anyway, I can't remember. Yeah. I didn't watch the whole game, but I remember that play watching it, and that could have changed the landscape for sure. Yeah,
and so I think he's just kind of stepped up and is starting to be a real player now for the Oregon State. I think he could be someone who continues to improve, and like you said, he is only a sophomore. He's got some physical tools to really play. All right, final one. Biggest disappointment.
Jordan Villeman.
Yep, I think I'll have to agree with there.
I don't have too much to say on this other than the guy has the tools, physical tools, to be an NFL receiver, and I'm not seeing the mental aspect right now. Jordan Villeman came in and was a great receiver. All considering, I'm not going to say great, very, very serviceable and quite good for coming in as a redshirt freshman in that absence of Richard Mullaney. Very solid. Made great plays. Looked very good. Even last year was still pretty solid. Hasn't done much this year. You talked to Coach Brenden about that. I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this one.
Yeah,
but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. It's when I talked to Brenden about it, it sounded like it is just kind of a mental thing, just getting preparing mentally throughout the week, and he wouldn't go into further detail into what he wanted to see from Jordan Villeman.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing because he doesn't want to give it to Colorado or have that information to Colorado, which is totally fair. But Yeah, I'm going to go with Vilman too, just because we're not seeing the big play from him. And, you know, in his time at Oregon State, he's always been a big play guy. He has like several, like 70+ yard touchdowns.
Also made, you know, that play against Utah is the one that really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, those 2 plays against Utah. Yeah. It's just
the 2-point conversion catch too.
Yeah, it just hasn't.
Granted, that was.
Oh, I thought that was a touchdown too, because it was on 4th down.
Oh, was it? Oh, that's right. I think it was. I think you're right. Maybe that was because he had Heist Mannion throwing him to him.
Probably.
I'm gonna give that credit. Mannion knew how to place a deep ball, and Mannion, you know, it would have been interesting. But I mean, good receivers adjust to whoever they have throwing the ball. I mean, you know, you look at, whether it's, you know, you look at a guy like Julian Edelman. I mean, you know, he's still gotten his. He has Tom Brady.
No.
But like since Tom Brady hasn't played this year, still got his usual numbers with.
Okay, but those are professional athletes.
I know, with Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just saying the good receivers. I'm struggling to find. Okay, fine. A Colorado receiver, Devin Ross, didn't even have a hiccup in his stats from Mendez, Lou Fowler Mendez. That's a more local example. I mean. No difference from, you know, a great college receiver, Braylon Addison. No difference from, he still got his numbers with Mariota from when he got his numbers with Jeff Locke or Vernon Adams. I mean, good receivers have to make adjustments to who's ever throwing them the football.
Yeah, the Devin Ross is a good comparison.
I know you would never make a comparison to Duck players, Brian, but I'm just saying.
I just don't like the comparison just in general. But anyway, I think Vilman will bounce back. I think he has talent. He knows what to do, and I just think once this offense gets rolling, and he'll be a big part of kind of that turnaround for the offense. But he's never been just like a huge like catch guy. Even I think he only averaged like 40, roughly. I think it's even less than 40 catches a year. So he wasn't like a high number catch, but it's just the catches that he was making were always like impact catches, and we're not seeing that right now. And it's something we've grown to expect from Jordan. And, you know, I can totally see him turning it around.
Yes, sir. But I think it's going to take a big play for him to do it.
Yeah, and
he made some big ones in the spring game, too. I think it's all a confidence thing. I think once he makes that big catch, it'll be over.
Yeah, and that's why, because, I mean, we know Jordan can play. He's a great guy. He's another friend of the show.
He is.
But, yeah, we just haven't seen what he's usually done.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get into our pick'ems. We'll start with Oregon State and Colorado. Just to get that going. So I have a couple questions since it is Oregon State playing. Is Colorado for real?
I do believe so. I was unsure early in the year, but I darn well know for sure. And this is one thing I know. Michigan is a good football team. They're going to probably be in the playoff. And Colorado almost beat them. Should have beat them. Arguably, I'm going to say Colorado choked it because they did. Colorado should have won that game. And then, no hangover from that loss. You go into Autzen and win. Autzen is not an easy place to win. And they go in there, just brush it off. I mean, I'm impressed. I am. I think they're finally seeing the dividends. You know, Tristan Decoud said it best. He told me this week, he goes, first 3 years under Coach Mack, they weren't executing. They weren't able to make the plays. They didn't have guys that bought into the program. Now you're seeing they're executing. They have all guys, everyone on that roster is bought into Coach Mack. They're winning games. I think they are for real. I really do. I think they have a legit shot at taking the South. With how weak the South is looking, outside of Utah and Colorado, and maybe Arizona State, Colorado's one of those 3 teams that has a shot. They actually have a shot at winning the South. I didn't think I'd say that. I didn't think I'd ever say that. They got a shot.
Yeah, no, that. I think Colorado is good. I don't know how for real they are. So I guess because I don't think Oregon's very good this year. They aren't going to be able to stop anyone. Their offense just isn't as dynamic. So I guess my next question for you, Brenden, what's the potential of a letdown game for Colorado against Oregon State?
Non-existent.
Non-existent?
This is their first game at home in 3 weeks. They played back-to-back on the road against Michigan and Oregon. Their fans are they're actually probably going to fill Folsom Field, which it's a big stadium. I don't think they've had a sellout in I don't know how long. They haven't had a game where the students have been back at Colorado. This could be, I mean, granted, it's 11:30 a.m. kickoff. It's going to be early, but I don't see it. I really don't.
Here's why I think it could happen. I don't know how well Colorado can handle success. They haven't shown it. I mean, Oregon State. I think Oregon State's going to go in this game pretty hungry. I think they saw some good things in the second half, and I don't know. Colorado's had a super emotional win. Players were coming off the field in tears. They were so happy. That's an emotionally draining game. I think it will be a little tough to swing the momentum or to reach that high again.
Do you think it would have been any different if they'd lost that game to Oregon? Like if Jeff Locke had completed that, or Jeff Locke. Looked a little like Jeff Locke. If
Dakota Prukop.
Wow, I don't know why I was losing Prukop. If Prukop had made that catch and Colorado had lost the game, would you be saying the same thing?
Yep. Because that was just an emotional game, and a really positive one. But yeah, I think they've had just like 2 emotional games in a row, and I don't think like that. I don't think you can keep carrying that around. So that's why I think Colorado could have a letdown game.
Okay.
And it's also could be a revenge game for Oregon State. I mean, that was like last year was like that one game that they could have won in the Pac-12 and kind of let it slip through their fingers. So
yeah, I mean, if we're gonna go with predictions, I think Colorado runs away with this game. I do. I could be completely off base, but if we want to talk about predictions for Colorado, Oregon State, I think Colorado wins. I think they win like 33-21. I think Colorado easily takes it. I don't think the Beavers, I don't think they have enough to go with them. So I'm thinking 33-21.
33-21. I'm going to pick Oregon State in this one.
Wow. Okay.
I think they're going to play a little better. And like I said, the letdown game's going to happen. I'm going to go 24-14, Oregon State.
Wow. You think you're going to hold Montez and Colorado's offense to 14 points?
It's a letdown game, man.
At home?
Yeah.
Wow. That's bold. All right. You got more confidence in the Beavs than I do, I guess. That's bold, Brian.
Yeah. Hey. Fortune favors the bold. I've heard that somewhere.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into these Pac-12 games. Gosh. Oh, man, we have a great one to open off conference play. Stanford at Washington.
Yeah.
At Husky Stadium.
I'm going to be keeping tabs on this one.
Yeah. That's a great game.
That is the winner of the Pac-12 North right there. I will stamp that. You can write it down. You can mark my time, date. I will swear on the Bible. This game, folks, determines the winner of the Pac-12 North, in my opinion. Whoever wins this game... With how so the North is looking outside of these two, I think this determines the North. Oregon's a non-factor this year. Washington State, I'm not sold on. Cal, shaky. And Oregon State, shaky. So I think this game determines it. It's in Husky Stadium. I got the Dogs, man.
The Dogs.
I got the Dogs, and I think they win 28-14. Stanford's offense, even with Christian McCaffrey, has not impressed me so far. They've kind of just done enough to squeak by, in my opinion. I mean, even against UCLA, they weren't. It was like I think it was like a 27-10 win or something. I mean, I don't know, nothing crazy. I mean, I know Stanford has a tendency to always grind a team out, win these games. They grit and grind. We're gonna stuff the ball down your throat. We're gonna wear you out. The Huskies, a couple years ago, the Huskies took Stanford out too in a game. I was back in 2012. I can't remember. I think it was 2012, and it was 2012 because it was after that game that Stanford decided, hey, we're gonna bench Josh Nunes and maybe we should start this guy Kevin Hogan at quarterback. And I think the Huskies are. This is the game they circled along with the Oregon game. I think the Dogs get it.
Yeah, Washington's actually the favorite in this game.
It's not too surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, and Stanford again is going with a new quarterback. It doesn't look good, but man,
It's hard to pick against the Cardinal, I know.
Yep.
It is.
I think David Shaw.
He is the best in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. But sometimes you can be the best coach and get beat by talent. And right now, I think Washington has more talent, more depth than Stanford does.
Maybe, but I'm still going to roll with Stanford.
All right. Fair point.
And I think it's going to be like 21-17. It's going to be close.
Yeah, okay. As these games usually are, those barn burners. Seattle, Husky Stadium is going to be electric, though, Brian.
Yeah, that should be a fun environment.
Gosh, that'd be fun to... it's on national TV. It's a Friday. I mean, that'd be a fun game to be at. Anyway.
All right, next game on the list. Well, I mean, Oregon State and Colorado would be the first game on Saturday, and then we got Utah and California. Interesting. We have very two different styles of play.
I got Cal because Cal just lost that emotional game to Arizona State. I'm still, even though Utah won again, I'm still not sold on Utah. I'm really not. I know their defense is solid, but I'm still not sold on them. I think Cal puts up a lot of points, and I think Cal wins 41-28.
Wow, that's a big win. Yeah, because Colorado, not Colorado.
Colorado, nice. I like it.
Cal, they are the 2-point favorite. So
I got Cal 41-20. I think Davis Webb responds in a big way.
Yeah, no, I actually think Utah's going to win this game.
Okay.
I think
you and I aren't seeing eye to eye on a lot of these predictions this week, bro.
Yeah, I don't think Cal hasn't played like a legit defense yet.
San Diego State?
Not a legit defense.
They're in the top 25.
Okay.
Rocky Long's defenses are always amazing. I'd say that's legit. If not legit, then borderline legit. And granted, they lost that game, but
yeah, but they're not Utah's defense.
I guess not, but I still think Utah's defense is severely overrated. But your pick?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go. It isn't Cal. I don't think Cal has much of a home field advantage. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Utah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go. You went 42-28.
41-28.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Utah. 34, Cal 28.
Utah doesn't have the ability to put up 34 points
Against Cal's defense?
I don't know. I'm not impressed with Utah's offense. If there's one thing that's bad in the Pac-12, it is Utah's offense. But it's okay. But anyway, fair point. Moving right along, Brian.
I mean, they put up 31 on USC, put up 34.
USC is possibly the worst team in the South.
Okay. Which perfectly segues to Arizona State, USC.
This is going to be a blowout. I think Arizona State puts up 50.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. Arizona State was supposed to be a down year for Arizona State.
I think it's going to be 50-21.
50-21.
USC's defense is bad. And Arizona... Actually, you know what? Let me phrase that. I'm sorry. 51... I said 51 or 52?
You said 51.
Okay, 51-35. I'm sorry. I forgot. Arizona State's defense is pretty bad, too. Maybe even 51-42. But Arizona State will win the game because their defense will get enough. But Arizona State's offense with Kalen Ballage and then DeMario, they got talent all over the place. Even true freshman N'Keal Harry. Love that guy. Should have came to Oregon State, but it's okay. Yeah, I think Arizona State wins this game. I do. I think USC could drop to 1-4.
That's crazy because USC is a 10-point favorite, which is
a little high in my opinion for Arizona State team that is undefeated.
Let's see who is USC lost to. They lost to Alabama,
Utah, and
it was another. I mean,
I got this. Alabama, Utah, and hold on, I got this.
Stanford.
Yeah.
So that is a gauntlet to open the season. You're playing the number 1 team, number 7 team, and then Utah. That's no easy. 3 of those are on the road.
But I think more than anything, I'm not saying that Arizona State's more talented or USC's the better team, but I think USC is a team that in the past, when they get something in their head, it emotionally affects them, and I think them having 3 losses pretty emotionally affects them right now.
That could be, but I'm just feeling in a different mood, so I'm going to take Stanford. I'm not Stanford. I'm going to take USC. Just we're playing at home. I think this is.
Have we agreed? We haven't agreed on one pick.
We haven't. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it going. I'm just going to keep it going. Yep, I'm going to go USC. But I don't think it's going to be by 10. I don't.
Funny thing is, we're probably going to agree on the next game, but
yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go USC 24. No, that's not enough. 34. 31. USC.
okay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, fight on.
Okay. What do we got? Who's next?
Oregon, Washington State.
Oh, yes.
This might be the one where we picked together, Brian.
I'm taking the Cougs.
I'm taking the Cougs too.
Yeah.
So I guess we do end up meeting up together. If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that the Ducks are not very good. And one thing I do know is last time. Well, let's recap here, Brian. Last time the Ducks played Washington State, what happened? Washington State won in Autzen. Year before that, Washington State should have beaten Oregon and Pullman with Mariota in Mariota's junior year. They were ahead in that game and ended up choking it away. Washington State.
Yeah, because definitely the Pac-12 refs made just an awful call.
Do you remember that? Oh, I forget. Can you refresh me what that play was again? I remember the awful call. I'm trying to remember
it was a pass interference call. Well, it was a non-call.
When the Oregon player just wrapped Gabe Marks, I believe, like just.
I think it was Dom.
Was it Dom Williams?
Dom Williams, yeah.
Was it, or was it River Craycraft?
It was Dom Williams.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was a while ago, but yeah.
Completely, like, clearly the ball's not there yet, already wrapped up, would have moved the chains, and who knows what would have happened, but that was definitely a big play. And, yeah, I think Washington State, I mean, their two losses were to Eastern Washington, not great. Boise State.
Whoa, Eastern Washington, not great, huh? For the team,
it's not great. It's not great to lose to them.
Oh, I'm just saying. I mean, I'd say that to respect. And nowadays it's like Iowa losing to North Dakota State. If you lose to a top 5 or top 10 team in FCS, I'm gonna say that's somewhat respectable.
Nah,
I don't know, because there's not a gap. There isn't anymore. The top,
there is.
No, the top FCS teams and middle tier.
They couldn't. Eastern Washington would not put up the kind of points if they had to play a Pac-12 schedule.
But they do.
No, they don't.
They play. I mean, arguably, so what? You're telling me they just have one great Pac-12 game, or like when they played Oregon State, they had one, or when they play Oregon?
I don't think they could do it for nine straight weeks.
Bring them to the Pac. Settle this argument, but no, that's okay. Yeah, I think Washington State and Luke Falk, who they haven't really, I don't think they put together a great offensive performance. And I think Luke Falk's kind of just sitting back with almost like a Simpsons Mr. Burns, just kind of going, excellent. Just looking back at Oregon's defense, Luke Falk could have an absolute field day against this Duck defense. And I think they put up 55 points. I think they take them 55-21. I think Oregon gets taken to the woodshed here.
Yeah, especially with Royce Freeman. I don't know his stats right now.
That affects my fantasy team, but I don't know what's up with Rolls Royce. I mean, the Ducks don't allow practice. They don't give injury updates either, or let anybody into practice.
Yeah,
really.
So his status is definitely unclear. I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, I'm like you. I'm going to take Washington State. I think Oregon, they have no plan on defense. They aren't making plays. And I think that there's.
But you don't think that's something that Brady Hoke can remedy week to week, or you just think it's a lost cause? I mean, it's pretty early in the season to say it's a lost cause and say they have nothing to. I mean,
I think that there's some tension within the locker room.
Really?
Yeah. I saw a quote from one of the older people, for one of their older players, that the freshmen or some of the young people are pretty entitled. And so they're not like buying in.
I remember a lot of players were upset when the Ducks made the switch from the 3-4 to the 4-3 defense.
Well, I don't think that has much.
But
I'm just referring to a quote.
Yeah, elaborate on that a little bit, because I hadn't actually heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to look it up. But yeah, it's from one of their older players saying that the younger players were a little that there's some entitlement things, and they all needed to get on the same page. And I don't know if going against a high octane offense like Washington State is the right time to do that. Like, Oregon's still a favorite, which is pretty surprising.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah, I just don't see them. I mean, I guess their 2 losses have been close losses. They lost on
I know.
They lost on like the final plays on.
But
on
I mean,
both
I don't
games.
think Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's good, but I don't think they're I don't necessarily think they're like a Rose Bowl team. I think they're probably about a 9-3 team. I don't think they're like and Nebraska kind of shot themselves in the foot a few times in that game. That was a big game. Oregon got hyped for it, obviously. If Oregon had played the way against the Oregon defense played much better. If Oregon had played the way they played against Colorado against Nebraska, Nebraska would have won that game going away, in my opinion. I think the losses have started to string together for Oregon. I think they're starting to doubt themselves a little bit, and that's, I mean, it's no different. This week, people have been calling for Mark Helfrich, and it's premature, I think. But Brian, it's early for me to say this. If he doesn't get them to a bowl game this year, with the way they lost and imploded against TCU last year, I think he's gone. Yeah. And I think there's a very, very fine candidate waiting in the wings. Someone that just got dismissed from LSU.
Oh, Les Miles.
I could totally see that happening knowing the Ducks. But that's a different conversation for a different podcast. But you heard it here first.
I mean, I doubt we're the first people.
Well, anyway, you heard it. You heard it on the Brian and Brenden time before. Okay, just we can reference back, and when they maybe hire them, be like, oh, okay, I maybe do something, or I could be completely off base. But anyway,
all right. I still think Oregon has talent. They're still gonna be able to put up points. I'm gonna go 48-35, Cougs.
Okay, and final pick 'em. Drum roll.
All right, Pac-12 after dark. Arizona at UCLA.
I got the Bruins.
Yeah.
I think we're going to agree on this one too, Brian, after our streak. I got the Bruins. I'm not sold on Arizona. I know they played Washington tough. I think that was an emotional game too.
Yeah, and UCLA's in a very similar boat. They played Stanford very tough.
But in this situation, UCLA's got more talent. It's in the Rose Bowl. Rosen and that offense is better than what Arizona State's defense or Arizona's defense can do. I got UCLA 28-14, 28-21 maybe.
Yep, and the line's 13.5 points, so... Yeah, 28-14 is good. I'm going to go 31. I'm going to go 31-17.
Cool.
And what'd you say, 24?
I said 28-14.
28-14. All right. So here we are. End of episode 5. Oregon State's on the road this week, so we won't have any coverage of the game. So, yeah.
We'll get back for our next podcast next week, and then we'll, get after it. And obviously, Brian, you and I are looking forward to some coverage that Orange Media Network's going to bring up in the next game against Cal.
Yep. No, our team's finally kind of forming, and I think...
Hard to believe Cal. It's just, I don't know. I feel like Cal's a team usually Oregon State plays a lot later in the year.
Yeah. No.
I feel like this is the earliest we played Cal in a while. But anyway.
Yeah.
So random factoid.
Yeah, so I think that'll do it. That's a cap on episode 5 for the Brian and Brenden Talking About Beaver Football podcast. Thank you, everyone, for continuing to listen. We're getting some good reviews from people, and a lot of people are reviewing, so we appreciate that. We'll keep them coming as long as people are listening. Yeah, and even if people aren't listening, we'll keep them coming.
Hey, we're going to keep them coming because it's a great way for us to put our thoughts on Beaver football out there. And Brian, I know you said you've been having some good response on scout.com, and I've been putting this thing on Rivals as well, and we're definitely getting it out there. So always nice to get some positive feedback for sure. And we'll, like you said, we'll keep them coming. They're fun to do.
Yep. So for Brenden Slaughter, I'm Brian Rathbone. Thanks for listening.
Hey, your healing hands on my chest, like your ritual clean. So